My name is Elise, I'm 34, and I've been married to Jonah for nearly 11 years. Saying that out loud used to make me feel proud, like I'd done something rare, something resilient. But lately, it feels like I'm reciting someone else's story. Like I'm clinging to a version of my life that stopped being real a long time ago. I don't talk about this with anyone. Not my friends, not my sisters. Not even in therapy, when I used to go. But there's this weight in my chest that won't move. And the thing is, it's not just about Jonah. It's about me. It's about who I've become in this marriage. Or maybe who I stopped becoming. I think it started to crack around the time my aunts came to visit last spring. 3 of them, Carmen, Liza, and May. They're loud, nosy, full of old Caribbean advice and long stories about who did what with whom back in Santo Domingo. They drink too much sweet wine, wear bold lipstick, and talk like life still owes them something. I remember they were all sitting at the table, cackling about some scandal with my cousin's husband. And then Carmen, blunt as ever, turned to me and said, "Elise, you'd tell us if Jonah was cheating, right?" I blinked, laughed nervously. Of course. But he's not. And she tilted her head, smirked, and said, "Not yet, huh?" It was a joke. But it landed wrong. Like she'd cracked open something I hadn't let myself admit. Not that Jonah was cheating, but that something wasn't right. And maybe it had been wrong for longer than I cared to admit. I used to feel fire with him. There was this magnetism, this playfulness in the way he'd look at me like I was both the punchline and the poem. We used to undress each other like it was a ritual, not a routine. He'd kiss the inside of my wrist just because he liked how I smelled there. We'd lie in bed tangled in each other, talking until 2 a.m. about everything and nothing. Now he kisses me like he's clocking in. A quick press to the lips as he heads out the door, phone already in his hand. When he wraps his arms around me from behind while I'm doing dishes, it's not playful, it's possessive. And at night, when we curl into each other under the covers, it's more like we're both bracing against something. A cold front neither of us will name. I used to think it was just the stress. Work, bills, routines. But it's not just that. It's the way I feel myself disappear in his presence. The way he tells stories about his day without asking a single thing about mine. The way he touches me sometimes like he's searching for something that isn't there anymore, maybe never was. And still, I play along. I laugh in the right places. I moan when I'm supposed to. I keep the house looking warm and lived in. But inside, I'm quiet. I'm tired. I'm not me. The exact moment I knew something had shifted? It wasn't dramatic. It was a Tuesday. I was folding laundry, and Jonah came up behind me, pulled me into a hug. He buried his face in my neck like he used to. And for a split second, I waited for the feeling, the flutter, the warmth, the urge to turn and kiss him. But there was nothing. Just a stillness in my chest. I pulled away gently and told him I had cramps. He nodded, barely noticing. That night, I sat in bed scrolling through old pictures. Us at the lake, laughing with wet hair. Me in a red dress he used to love. Our first apartment, cluttered and messy but alive. I looked at that girl, me, and wondered if she would even recognize the woman I am now. And then I thought of Carmen's words. You'd tell us if Jonah was cheating, right? But what I can't stop asking myself now is worse. Would I even care? The thing about Jonah is, he tries. I can't sit here and pretend he's some checked-out brute or a guy who stopped caring. That's the worst part. He thinks he's doing everything right. Which only makes me feel worse when I still come up empty. Last Thursday, I came home from work late. I'm a graphic designer, freelance, mostly from home, but I'd had a meeting with a new client across town. I was drained, overstimulated from traffic, small talk, the bright white conference room where everything echoed. All I wanted was to melt into silence, maybe listen to some soft music, or just sit on the porch with my wine and be. Instead, Jonah met me at the door with that crooked smile of his, pulling me in for a kiss before I could even put down my bag. His hands found my waist like they always do, firm and eager, and he whispered, "You smell amazing." I tried to smile back, but I was still halfway inside my own head. I nodded toward the kitchen. "Let me put this stuff away first." He followed me. "I was thinking we could have a bath tonight? Light the candles you like. I got that rose salt stuff. Or maybe just skip the bath." He grinned, that boyish, charming thing that used to melt me. And maybe it should have. But instead of feeling seen, I felt handled. Like he was pressing fast forward on me. Like he couldn't tell I wasn't there. "I'm not really in the mood," I said, gently. I even touched his cheek as I said it, trying to soften the blow. He pulled back. His jaw tensed for half a second before he turned to the fridge. "Cool. No problem." But the silence that followed wasn't cool. It was loaded. Later that night, he reached for me in bed. Not just for sex, but to hold me, to re-anchor us. He rubbed my back in slow, familiar strokes, slid his hand under my shirt like he used to when we first dated. But it didn't feel comforting. It felt presumptive. Like he was skipping the part where I needed to talk, to unload, to be understood. "Jonah," I said, rolling away slightly. "Can we just cuddle? Like, actually just that." He froze for a second, then shifted back with a sigh. "We never do anything anymore." That stung more than I expected. I sat up, turned to face him in the dim light. "That's not fair. I'm tired, Jonah." "You think I don't notice? I get that you miss us. I do too. But I need you to ask how I am before touching me like that. I need to feel like a person, not a switch you're trying to flip." He looked up at me, wounded but confused. "I do ask you. Every day. How was your day? I try to cook, I clean, I rub your back, I initiate things. I don't know what else you want from me, Elise." And there it was. I didn't know how to answer without sounding ungrateful or cruel. But the truth lodged behind my ribs like a thorn. I wanted him to slow down. I wanted him to see me. Not in the way his hands did, but in the way his eyes used to, like he could sense my mood from a breath, like my inner world mattered more than what I did with my body. But instead, I just said, "I don't know. I just need a minute." He turned away, pulling the covers over his shoulder. And I stared at the ceiling, counting cracks in the paint, wondering when marriage had become a series of quiet retreats. The next morning, he made me breakfast. French toast with cinnamon sugar, my favorite. He didn't say much, but he slid the plate in front of me like it was a peace offering. I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say sorry. But my throat felt tight and traitorous, like even kindness between us now came wrapped in expectations. So I ate in silence. And he watched me like he was trying to solve a puzzle he didn't know he'd broken. There's this thing Jonah does when he's feeling light, when he thinks we're okay. He'll pass behind me while I'm cooking or brushing my teeth and give me this playful little slap on the ass. Like it's his way of saying we're still us. A shorthand for affection. I used to love it. I used to grin and sweat him back or lean into him. Now? Now I tense. It happened just last weekend. Saturday morning. I was in the laundry room, sorting whites from darks, knee-deep in the kind of weekend chores that make you feel like you're drowning in your own life. He came in, fresh from a run, sweaty and grinning. His hair was a mess, and he had that flushed, happy look he gets when he's feeling good in his body. I was in leggings and an old t-shirt, no makeup, hair in a limp ponytail. Not feeling good in anything. "Hey, babe," he said, coming up behind me. He ran his hand along my waist, then gave my butt a little smack. Still got it. I forced a laugh. Jesus, Jonah. He chuckled. What? It's a compliment. I stepped away, pretending to need something from the dryer, heart thudding, not from desire, but from the way my skin burned where he touched me. Not in a good way. Not like before. I wanted to want him. I really did. But it felt like my body was someone else's, like I was supposed to play a part in a scene I hadn't agreed to. And the worst part? I hated how quickly my mind went from he's just being sweet to why does he always have to touch me like that? Later that night, he tried again. We were curled up on the couch watching some documentary about volcanoes. I'd chosen it because it was neutral. Unsexy. Safe. I had my feet tucked under a blanket, holding a mug of tea like it was a shield. Jonah stretched out, reached over, and tucked my legs across his lap. I missed this, he murmured, rubbing slow circles on my calf. Feels like we haven't just chilled like this in forever. I gave him a soft smile, grateful for the moment. I was starting to relax, just enough to feel almost close again, until he leaned over and kissed me. It was warm, slow. His mouth lingered on mine, and I knew he meant it. He was trying to connect. To try. But instead of melting, I froze. Because the kiss didn't feel like affection, it felt like the opening move. I could already sense where it was going. His hand would slide higher, the kisses would deepen, and I'd be expected to follow. To catch up emotionally to where he already was physically. But I wasn't there. Not even close. I pulled back, gently, breaking the kiss with a small breath. I'm tired, I whispered. Sorry. Jonah gave a short, tight nod and looked back at the screen, like it didn't matter. But it did. I could feel the heat of his frustration humming just below the surface. A beat passed. You're always tired, he said, not looking at me. Not loud, but sharp enough to cut. I bit the inside of my cheek. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to hurt him. But I also didn't want to pretend anymore. Can we not make everything physical? I asked. Sometimes I just want to be close without that. He turned then, brow furrowed. I don't try anything for days, and the second I do, it's like I'm the bad guy. You're not, I said quickly. You're not. I need you to see me. I need connection, not pressure. I'm not pressuring you. But he was. Even if he didn't mean to. Even if it came wrapped in kisses and familiar hands and Sunday morning pancakes. I looked down at the frayed edge of the blanket, pulling at a loose thread. In my head, I screamed, why does everything have to turn into sex? But out loud, I just whispered, I'm going to bed. It happened at a restaurant. A little Italian place Jonah used to take me to when we were dating. Back then, we'd split a bottle of wine and laugh so loudly people would stare, not unkindly. We were that couple, the ones who couldn't get enough of each other. He booked the table last minute, said he wanted to do something nice for us. I appreciated the gesture. I even put on mascara and that olive dress he once called dangerously distracting. I looked in the mirror and told myself I was going to try. Really try. The first 20 minutes were fine. Safe topics. Work, his students, some neighbor's dog that kept digging through our trash. I laughed when I was supposed to. Nodded in the right places. But the whole time, I could feel the undercurrent, this subtle anticipation coming off him in waves. Halfway through the entree, he reached across the table and took my hand. I've missed this, he said. Missed you. I smiled, but it was tight, too rehearsed. I'm here. He shook his head, gently. No, you're not. Not really. I stared at our fingers. He was rubbing little circles over my knuckles, soft and slow. It should have felt sweet. It didn't. I'm trying, I said. You shouldn't have to try to be with me, Elise. And something in me snapped. I pulled my hand away and sat back in the booth, arms crossed before I realized I'd even done it. You think I want it to feel like this? Jonah blinked. I didn't say, no. Because you never say what you really mean. You just touch me and kiss me and wait for me to catch up emotionally like I'm some broken faucet that needs to be fixed. Okay, where is this coming from? I could feel the tremble in my chest before the tears even hit. And then I was crying, right there between the garlic knots and the half-finished rigatoni. I covered my face with a napkin like I could somehow keep it private, but it was already too late. People were looking. A couple across from us went quiet. I don't know what's wrong with me, I whispered, more to the table than to him. I feel like I'm losing myself. Like I can't breathe when you touch me sometimes, and I hate that. Because I love you. I really do. But I'm starting to feel like I'm disappearing in this marriage. Jonah didn't move. His face went blank in that familiar way he does when he doesn't know how to respond. I try, I said again, softer now. I try to want the things we used to. But I don't even know who I am anymore. I can't tell where you end and I begin. The silence was thick. Then he picked up his water, took a long sip, and said, so what, you don't love me anymore? I looked up at him, tears still hot on my cheeks. That's not what I said. That's what it feels like, Elise. He paid the bill quietly. Didn't look at me once on the drive home. And when we pulled into the driveway, he sat in the car with the engine still running and said, maybe you should go stay with your sister for a couple days. It felt like a punch. But the worst part? I was relieved. I nodded without saying a word, grabbed my overnight bag from the trunk. I'd packed one earlier in the week. Just in case. Now I'm lying on the guest bed at Lydia's house, listening to the distant hum of her kids arguing over some TV remote. The ceiling fan creaks softly above me, and I'm staring up at it, feeling like I've broken something I can't glue back together. And all I can think about is what Carmen said that day around the kitchen table. You'd tell us if Jonah was cheating, right? But I wonder now. If Jonah was cheating, if he found someone else who wanted him, touched him, saw him, would I even be shocked? Would I be relieved? And the guilt from that thought? It's unbearable. Because I'm not just mourning what we've become. I'm mourning the version of myself who used to want this life. It's been 9 days since the restaurant. 9 days since I packed my overnight bag and walked out of the house like a stranger. I've been staying at Lydia's, sleeping in the guest room that smells like baby wipes and peppermint tea. It's quiet here, but not in the comforting way. It's the kind of quiet that makes your thoughts louder. Jonah hasn't called. He's texted. Short ones. Got your mail. Let me know if you need anything from the house. Do you want me to water your plants? Not a single one said I miss you. Not one asked if I'm okay. But then again, I haven't either. Lydia checks on me, gently, like I'm a deer she doesn't want to startle. And my aunts, God bless them, they hover. Not with lectures, but with food. Tupperware on the counter like love offerings. And always the same cautious questions, you two talking at all? Is he seeing someone? Do you want to? They mean well. But all I can hear in their voices is the assumption that something must have happened to me. That I was betrayed, blindsided. The truth is messier. Jonah didn't cheat. He didn't scream. He didn't abandon me. He just stopped hearing me. And I stopped knowing how to speak. Yesterday, I went back to the house to grab some work files. He was there, grading papers at the kitchen table. Wearing that soft gray hoodie I used to steal on cold mornings. He looked up when I came in. We both froze. Hey, I said. He nodded. Hey. I stood there, bag half open, unsure of what to say. The room felt heavy with everything unsaid. He reached for his mug. "There's coffee. It's fresh." I nodded. "Thanks." I didn't take any. I just stood at the counter, watching him underline something in red, jaw tight, eyes tired. He looked older somehow. Worn. And it hit me, he's hurting, too. Just differently. He never wanted any of this. He just wanted his wife back. The woman who used to pull him into the shower with her. Who used to kiss him in parking lots. Who used to smile when he touched her. And I don't know when I stopped being her. Or why. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in Lydia's guest bed, staring at the ceiling, remembering the way Jonah used to wake me up on Sundays with pancakes and that stupid Sinatra playlist. The way he'd wrap his arms around me from behind while I brushed my teeth. I missed him. Not just the man he used to be, but the way I used to feel with him. Safe. Wanted. Home. But I also remembered that sick, hollow feeling in my stomach every time I flinched from his touch. The shame. The confusion. The way I cried in the car afterward and whispered, "What's wrong with me? This isn't about him being a bad man. He's not. He's kind, and loyal, and good." But somewhere along the way, we stopped meeting each other where we were. I reached out with words, he reached with hands. And the distance grew until it was something neither of us could bridge. Now I'm standing at the edge of that distance, heart in my hands, wondering if love is enough to build something new. I could go back. I could try again. But I don't want to return just because I feel guilty. I want to go back because I choose him. So I close my laptop. I walk to the window, watch the light fade over Lydia's backyard. And I take a deep breath. Tomorrow, I'll go home. Not to fix everything in one day. But to see if we can find each other again, slowly, honestly, this time. Because I still believe in us. But only if we both stop pretending we're okay. I went home the next afternoon. Not with flowers or grand speeches, but with a quiet knock on our own front door. Jonah answered it like he was expecting someone else. His face didn't soften right away. His eyes were tired, and his hair was damp from a shower. He looked like someone trying to hold himself together. "I wasn't sure if you'd come back," he said. "I wasn't either," I admitted. He stepped aside to let me in, and for a long time, we just stood there in the hallway. Our house looked the same, mail on the console, shoes kicked near the stairs, but it felt changed, like someone had rearranged the gravity inside it. "I think we forgot how to talk," I said. Jonah gave a dry, sad smile. "I think we forgot how to listen." We sat on opposite ends of the couch, knees drawn up, a chasm between us. And for the first time in months, we were honest. We talked about touch. About how mine had gone quiet, and how his had turned into reaching without asking. We talked about loneliness, his, mine, and how we'd both been pretending not to feel it. We talked about the future. Or tried to. "I don't know how to want you the way I used to," I whispered. He nodded, looking down. "I know." I could see it then, how far gone he was. Not because he didn't care. But because something in him had given up waiting. He reached for my hand, held it gently. Not trying to pull me closer. Just holding. "I'm not angry," he said quietly. "I just don't know how to keep giving when it feels like I've already handed you everything." Tears welled again, but I didn't cry. I just nodded, accepting what we both knew but hadn't said out loud. We sat like that for a long time until the sun dipped below the window and the living room dimmed. Eventually, I stood. He didn't stop me. But when I turned to leave, he reached for me one last time, not with desire or desperation, but with something more tender. He pulled me in and kissed my forehead. Slowly. Like a goodbye that didn't want to be one. "I'll always love you, Elise," he murmured. And I believed him. That night, I didn't go back to Lydia's. I booked a room in a quiet hotel by the lake. I needed air. Space. Stillness. And maybe, to finally sit with the ache of letting go without blaming either of us for how we got here. We didn't break because of one big thing. We broke because we stopped asking if the other felt safe. And eventually, neither of us did. You know, people always assume that if a relationship ends, someone must have done something terrible. Someone cheated. Someone lied. Someone broke the rules. But sometimes, it's quieter than that. Sometimes love dies in a perfectly clean kitchen, with the dishwasher humming and the lights still on. Sometimes it ends when no one is screaming, just sitting 2 feet apart and feeling like strangers in a house you built together. That was Jonah and me. I used to think love was supposed to feel like gravity, pulling you back no matter how far you drift. But what I've learned is that love is more like a language. And if you stop speaking it, eventually, you forget how to understand each other. For the longest time, I thought there was something broken in me. I mean, I wanted to want him. I missed the way we used to be, how his touch could set off sparks, how safe I felt in his arms. But somewhere along the way, I started to flinch at the same hands that once felt like home. And that terrified me. Because no one warns you about that part. No one talks about how you can love someone deeply and still feel empty in their presence. How you can lie beside them at night and feel lonelier than if you were alone. How every kiss can start to feel like a question you don't know how to answer. And maybe the cruelest part? I knew he loved me. That's what made it harder. He wasn't cruel. He didn't betray me. He tried. But he kept trying in ways I couldn't receive. Through touch. Through sex. Through reaching for me when I needed to be seen, not claimed. I needed emotional intimacy, conversation, vulnerability, space to fall apart without being fixed. He needed physical connection, to feel chosen, desired, held. We kept missing each other in the dark. And the truth is, if you ignore that gap for long enough, it starts to grow teeth. It starts to hurt just to stand in the same room. So I left. And he let me. Not because we stopped caring. But because we stopped making each other feel known. It's been 4 months now. I moved into a small place near the lake. It's quiet. I bought a yellow kettle. I started painting again, badly, but with feeling. I read books I'd forgotten I owned. I'm learning how to be in my own body again without flinching. Sometimes, I still miss him. I miss Sunday mornings and the way he used to hum when he cooked. I miss the way we laughed about things that weren't even funny. I miss being someone's person. But I don't miss feeling invisible. I don't miss the ache of pretending I was okay just because he needed me to be. And that's the hardest part to admit out loud. That's sometimes the most loving thing you can do. Is leave. Not out of anger. Not out of punishment. But because staying would require you to keep abandoning yourself. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: desire isn't just about sex. It's about being chosen in the small moments. It's about someone knowing your silences and still reaching for your soul, not just your skin. And love, real love, should never feel like a performance you have to rehearse to be worthy of staying. So no, Jonah didn't cheat. But when my aunts asked me that day, you'd tell us if he did, right? I think what left me speechless wasn't the question. It was realizing that I wouldn't have been shocked if he had. Not because he's cruel. But because he was starving for something I couldn't give anymore. We both were. And maybe that's the most tragic kind of infidelity, the one where you betray the truth of who you are, every day, just to keep a version of love alive. I won't do that anymore. I want something real. Even if it's quiet. Even if it's just with myself for now. I choose me. And for the first time in a long time. That feels like enough.